Shawna's Bit of Blue Sky by Claire Blatchford, illustrated by Mike Eagle. This is the front of the book, the spine of the book, and the back of the book. The title is Shawna's Bit of Blue Sky. This is the title page, Shawna's Bit of Blue Sky by Claire Blatchford, who's the author, illustrated by Mike Eagle, who drew the pictures. Shawna squirmed. She'd been sitting in the car all day long. She was also a bit anxious. The noisy city was far behind. The sun had set. The gray sky had turned black, and still the road went on and on. "Stop wiggling," said Jimmy, Shawna's older brother. "Will we be there soon?" Shawna asked. "When the sun comes up," said Alicia, Shawna's older sister. They were going to visit their grandparents. They hadn't been to see them for a while because they lived far away. Shawna was 2 years old the last time she'd been there. "Don't worry, Shawna," said Mommy. "Grandmother and Grandfather will remember you." "Try and sleep, Shawna," said her daddy. The road went on and on. The stars came out one by one. Shawna's eyelids sank down and down. Shawna woke up with a start. The night was over. The bright morning light made her blink. She looked out the car window. She saw flat, bare earth. There were very few cars. There were no houses, no stores, no apartments, no trees. Above the earth was the sky. It was so big and so blue. It was like a huge swimming pool. Shawna had never seen such a big blue sky from the city. She couldn't stop looking at it. It made her happy. A little while later, they drove into the village where Grandmother and Grandfather lived. "I'm starving," said Jimmy as the car pulled up beside a small white house. "Me too," said Alicia. "Me too," said Shawna. Shawna stayed close to Alicia when she got out. There were lots of people, aunts, uncles, cousins. It looked as if everyone had come to greet them. Her mother talked with the women. Her father laughed with the men. Everybody spoke Navajo. Back in the city, Shawna spoke Navajo only at home. Shawna looked around. The kids wore jeans and t-shirts, just like hers. Most of the men wore boots and cowboy hats. The women wore skirts and beautiful silver necklaces, earrings, and belts. Shawna's mommy had some jewelry like this. So did Alicia. Even Shawna had a necklace of white, red, and silver beads. Shawna stood on her tiptoes to see farther. The land was flat here too. She saw horses and sheep behind the houses. Real horses and sheep. Above them all was the big blue sky. "Here's Shawna," said a deep voice. Shawna looked up into two brown smiling eyes. She knew it was Grandfather. He was tall and had thick gray eyebrows and gray white hair. He took Shawna by the hand and led her into the house. Alicia and Jimmy followed. Grandmother had gray hair too. She clapped her hands together when she saw Shawna. "What a big girl you are now!" Grandmother gave them warm fried bread to eat. It was as good as the bread their mother made at home. "I want to learn how to make jewelry," Jimmy said when he had finished his bread. "Good," said Grandfather. "I will teach you how to make jewelry." Grandfather made jewelry to sell. He made silver necklaces, earrings, belts, pins, and rings. "I want to learn too," said Alicia. "Good," Grandfather said again. He turned to Shawna. "What about you, Shawna? What do you want?" Shawna didn't know what she wanted. She shrugged. Then she saw the sky through the window. "I want some blue sky," she said. "Some blue sky to take back to the city." Jimmy and Alicia laughed, but Grandfather and Grandmother did not laugh. Grandfather's gray eyebrows went up. "Maybe I can find some blue sky for you to take to the city," said Grandfather. "How can you do that?" Shawna asked. "Can you reach the sky?" "Wait and see," said Grandfather. He winked at Jimmy and Alicia. "Come on now, I'll show you where I make the jewelry." They followed Grandfather into another room. There was a long wooden workbench. Hammers, scissors, and other tools hung on the wall. There were shelves with jars full of small red, green, blue, black, and white stones. Grandfather took a big pair of heavy scissors and cut some silver wire. He picked the wire up with a pair of pliers. He held the wire over the green-blue flame. Then he laid the hot wire on the table and hammered it flat. "You hammer now," Grandfather told Jimmy. Jimmy hammered and hammered. Alicia watched. Shawna squirmed. She wanted to do something. "Why don't you go outside and see how the animals are, Shawna?" said Grandfather. Shawna was glad to go outdoors. Alicia went with her. They patted the sheep. They fed the horses handful of grass. Then Shawna and Alicia climbed up the side of a fence and sat on top looking at the sky. Shawna decided Grandfather was teasing her. Even if he was tall, he couldn't possibly reach the sky. "How is Grandfather going to get me some blue sky?" asked Shawna. "Don't ask me," Alicia replied. When they went back to the house, they found their mommy grinding corn to make tortillas. Their daddy was helping to make a stew. All the aunts and uncles were there. Only Grandfather and Jimmy were missing. The whole family was going to have a fancy dinner, and they were going to have it outside. Sheepskins were laid on the ground. Bowls and spoons were brought out. It was like a party. Grandfather and Jimmy came out just before the meal. They looked pleased. Grandfather said a blessing. It went like this: "We are happy. Beauty is all around us. The blue sky is above. The brown earth is below. The rain clouds have been here. The grass is growing long. The sheep are fat. Our family has come back from the far-off city. We are happy." Shawna felt happy too. Shawna was eating a tortilla when Grandfather and Jimmy came over and sat down beside her. Jimmy took something out of his pocket. He dropped it into Shawna's hand. It was a ring, a small silver ring with a round stone, a bright blue stone. Shawna couldn't stop looking at it. The stone was as beautiful as and blue as the sky. She wiggled with excitement. "Stop wiggling," said Jimmy. "Put it on. We made it for you." Shawna slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. She held her hand out to show Grandfather. He nodded and smiled. Now the blue sky would be with her wherever she went.